Shane, you want to tell?
It is 4:01.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Shane's
just a
gonna
second.
tell us- hold on.
We're
Dr.
gonna,
Reiniger.
hold on just a second. We're live.
Okay, Dr. Reininger.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today to the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee. This is an audio-video conference of this committee meeting. I'm the Board of Trustees of Harlingen Consolidated Independent School District. Today is November 3rd, 2020, and we are beginning at 4 p.m. And this meeting may be done as an audio-video conference pursuant to Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of open meetings law issued on March 2020. So today we have some important business to get to as always, and we are going to have one main topic for our agenda today, and that is going to be presented to us by Ms. Veronica Cortan, preparing for teacher incentive allotment. Ms. Cortan?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Reininger, board members, Dr. Cavazos, senior team, and audience. Definitely an exciting topic that we're going to be sharing with you this afternoon. As Dr. Reininger mentioned, it is preparing for the teacher incentive allotment. And so as we begin the presentation, I do want to just talk a little bit about this is perfectly aligned to Goal 2. So we've done a lot of work in the area of recruiting the very best teachers and staff as a whole to Harlingen CISD. And so we've been on a journey that's years long with our strategic plan. And I must say, when we looked at the teacher incentive allotment, we realized how closely aligned it was to the work that we were already doing with Goal 2. The entire concept is to not just recruit the very best, but it's also to get them here, develop them, and then certainly retain them. And so as we start this afternoon, I do want to just talk a little bit about those special teachers. So as we're going through this entire presentation, think back to your teacher that inspired you and that made all the difference in the world. We all have one of those teachers. And as you think about that teacher, usually when we think about those individuals, we wish that we could go back and say, thank you for everything you've done, and somehow find a way to really give them everything that they're worth. So when you think about teacher incentive allotment, that is the entire rationale behind teacher incentive allotment. It will position us as a district to be able to incentivize our teachers and to really make sure that if they love what they're doing and they're doing a great job in the classroom and they're truly setting themselves apart with the data and other things that we look at, then we want to be able to have a system by which we can incentivize our teachers. As you know, and as we've talked about previously, this is an initiative to get teachers closer to a six-figure salary. And so, as I mentioned, it really is perfectly aligned to everything that we're doing with Goal 2. So I do want to point out a few big picture items with teacher incentive allotment. First of all, we have the ability and we have the option to create a local designation system to incentivize high-performing teachers. And when we talk about high-performing teachers, that's based on the work that we'll be embarking on here pretty soon. The incentives are predetermined by the state agency, by TEA, and they range anywhere between $3,000 to $32,000. They're predetermined by TEA, and it's based on items such as the demographics of the campus and the location. So in that structure, when we think about the teacher incentive allotment, it allows us to have teachers qualify for incentives that will have the range that I indicated earlier, and to be either a master, an exemplary, or a recognized teacher. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But the other thing too is that as we design our system, we're going to push it forward to the agency, and they, in partnership with Texas Tech University, will be able to review our final application and to review that for reliability and validity. So you may be asking yourself a little bit about teacher incentive allotment and what does that really mean? So under teacher incentive allotment, there are actually two different pathways that the state will allow for teachers to earn the incentives, one of those being the National Board Certification. So as we have studied the National Board Certification, it really has signaled to our system what we're looking at as far as incentives go and what master teachers could look like. And so the first pathway that is eligible for the incentives is the National Board Certification. If our teachers earn the National Board Certification, then they qualify for the incentive. The second pathway will be to qualify for incentives based on a locally developed rubric that we will embark on designing here pretty soon. Included in that locally developed rubric must be measures of student growth and how we're going to quantify that. And then secondly, it's data regarding teacher observations. The third area that may be included is an area that they call optional factors. And in those optional factors, as a district, we can designate what optional factors can look like for our particular rubric. Things that could be looked at are things like student surveys, parent surveys, or anything that we can use to quantify towards the incentive structure. So I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about capturing the voice of stakeholders the HCISD way. So I'm going to take you way back to 2013. In the spring of 2013, we had our strategic plan. We started the development of our strategic plan. And here we are years later, still have a strategic plan that is alive and still guiding the work. And perhaps partially due to the fact that we captured the voice of stakeholders at every layer of our organization. We came to committees, we had people that sat in an advisory capacity. And so with that building of the strategic plan, we really have created a culture where the voice of the stakeholder is something that we honor and that we bring to the forefront. This teacher incentive allotment and the design of the TIA will be no different. We are going to have voices from different stakeholders from throughout the entire organization. One of the things in the guiding documents, they speak to the importance of ensuring that our board can speak to and really understands our teacher incentive allotment and really understands how teachers can qualify for incentives. Because of that, this is the first of a series of meetings that we'll be able to come to you and share the progress of our teacher incentive allotment, you being one of those layers of the stakeholders whose voice we'll be capturing. And so moving forward, as I mentioned, we'll be coming to this committee every month to provide monthly updates on the work that we're doing. Just like with our strategic plan, we have looked at the contents of the teacher incentive allotment. We have designated design team topics. And so just like with our strategic plan, we brought those design teams in to help us really think out of the box and really focus on the opportunity. And so with teacher incentive allotment, this positions us to really benefit from a great opportunity to be able to incentivize those teachers that truly set themselves apart. So design teams will be a big part of that, as will our advisory committees along the way. I'm not going to speak to every single date that's on the screen. However, I will say that we are going to start our work. We're anxiously awaiting for the application to open. Some important dates that I do want to share with you all is that we are looking to come to this committee and to the board in March of 2021 to share a draft of what our teacher incentive allotment rubric will look like. Remember that along the way, by the time we get to March, you would have already had several months of updates. And so by the time we get to March, it's really bringing our draft forward so that you can look at that draft and certainly provide feedback. The other thing that's important is that along the way, we will have opportunities for our board to provide feedback and to ask questions. questions. All that in preparation for our April board meeting, where we would like to bring the plan forward for consideration for approval at the April board meeting so that we can submit our application. So prior to the application, it's a lot of work with the design teams. It's ensuring that our stakeholders are aware of where we're headed, and then coming to our board in April. Should that plan be approved, then we bump into the 21-22 school year as our data capture year. One of the things that I know is of importance is that very last date at the very end there. Our initial payout we're projected to have our initial payouts in September of 2023. So it gives you the application timeline in an overview. And so as we move forward, I'm going to open it up for questions, certainly any type of feedback. I'm just really excited that we get to embark on something like this simply because it gives us the opportunity to incentivize our teachers. We've learned a lot from our partners at Holdsworth, and one of the most amazing trips that we have been able to be a part of and to really learn from is the Singapore model. And so as we come back and as we think of all the opportunities with our teachers, this is indeed a celebration, and we just need to ensure that we continue to bring the stakeholders along the journey of the design. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and open it up to feedback and questions from our committee.
Thank you, Ms. Gortan. I know this is a long-range plan, and our goal today was to get a sense of what's to come, right? Not the details, but the overview, and truly appreciate what you've laid out for us. Are there any questions? Comments?
Well, I guess I have a couple of, and I guess I don't want to get into the weeds because, again, it's at the very beginning of that. But
You're muted, Javier.
You're on mute, Javier. Mr. Delio.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
These funds are going to come directly from the state, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're looking at 2023 with the times that we're in and the sessions the legislative session that's going to be coming in the next 60 days. One, what's the forecast on the funding in 2023? And two, is that funding going to be like a one-time thing, and would that be sustainable? Because that's going to be a big jump in our budget line item on salaries and fringes. We don't have to go into details, I guess, just maybe in a general.
So I'll touch on that. So in general, the commissioner has made it very clear that the process for being part of the teacher incentive allotment is full force ahead. That money has been safeguarded. To your point, it is money coming from the state, so at any point they can stop or slow down the process. But latest indications, they're releasing the application for this cycle, and they're expecting districts are gonna begin this important work. I will tell you that even if, let's say we have 10 teachers here or 15 teachers, if one of these teachers leaves and they're designated as a recognized, the money follows the teacher, right? And they have a 5-year where they get the designation of mastered, recognized, and the different designations. So the money is secured. At this point, the state has pretty much said that they're moving forward because it was allocated by legislatively. Things can change with the legislative session, but at this point, they have not indicated that.
And then just my last question is that designation on their whether they're distinguished or whatever the 3 levels that I didn't write them down. I'm sorry, I apologize. But is that something that y'all are going to go back to their evaluation and what it is now? Or are they going to have a chance to start working to get that designation?
Correct. Once the plan is approved and based on the pathways, they may choose the national board certification pathway or our locally developed pathway. At that point, that's when they start working towards that designation. And that designation, Mr. De Leon, actually by SBEC is placed on their certificate at the state level. So that anywhere they go, they're recognized based on those categories. for 5 years.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for those questions. Are there any other comments or questions? And then we'll wrap it up. Oh, Ms. Fleury, you are on mute.
Mercy sakes, thank you.
There you go.
No questions and at this point, and just the comment I would like to make only is that this has been in the making for decades. And I just would like to express my appreciation that it's being taken so seriously, because the reason I feel it did not work in any of the years past was there was not this multi-year specificity given to this plan. And, there are so many opportunities, and this is something that the time for this has come, but there are, there are pitfalls in abundance to any plan that is made that is not done with the greatest amount of care. And I couldn't be more pleased that it's the Harlingen School District that is looking at this so carefully right now, because I know you'll do it right. This, to me, is equal to, if in fact not more significant than the strategic plan we did when we did it. Because the long-term effects of this will be equal to that, if not more, in so many ways. So we really have to get this right. We will get it right, but it will take every bit of us, all this planning. The only additional comment I would make is we absolutely do need parents at the table, really parents at the table. I think one of the things that's helped us with our strategic plan, we've all recognized many times, is that we had community members at the table. It was not something run by the school board or the school administrators. We've got to have the community with us on this. So anyway, thank you. I'm excited about it. I'll be talking to Veronica privately. We'll get a lot of information that way, not to bore everybody else. But as a former teacher, I could not be more vocal in my pride and joy that finally the state of Texas is going to be serious about trying to get this right. So thank you.
Very good, very good. So as we kind of transition then, are there any comments about the topics for future meetings? I think it's pretty clear that this will be a topick as we go forward at each meeting. But Dr. Cavazos, did you want to make any comments about that?
Yes, Dr. Reininger, a couple of things that I think are important moving forward that we really need to kind of settle into is we need to start the conversation of post-COVID and what are things that we've learned and what are things that are going to continue to be part of HCISD and kind of start having those conversations. I also think that it is critical. We have been putting them aside, waiting for things to settle down with the COVID pandemic and so forth. But I really think we need to bring forward our financial advisors to come and give us a global look at the financial status of the school district and opportunities moving forward, and where we are. We have invested quite a bit of money and paid for projects in cash, and that's something that everyone should take pride in. But we really need to look at, 5 years down the road, what is our financial stability? What are we doing right? What are the things we want to continue to see? We are past the first 5 to 6 years of the TRE. And it's time to plan what's going to happen the next 5 years with the TRE funding, right? So we finished our commitment, what we told the board, what we told the community, but it's time now to declare, okay, well, what do the next 5 years look like in TRE projects? So the two big projects that we are undertaking, actually 3, is the UTRGV ECHS project, Treasure Hills, and of course the Transition Academy, which is of a smaller scale. But I think that has the ability for transforming our school system and continuing that pathway. So I think we're going to need to get to that point where we bring it via the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee and really sit down with our financial advisors and just look at where we are, because we've got a lot of things to be proud of, but we have to plan for the future with the TRE funding that's going to be continuous as a revenue source. I also think that we need to talk about an IB scalable model. And what does that look like district-wide, right? So we've talked about elementary, middle school, but at the end, 3 to 5 years, what is the IB going to look like? Keys Academy, the next chapter, what does that look like in opportunities for kids? And then, of course, giving you updates on UTRGV baccalaureate pathways and the Transition Academy, the day in the life of a student in the Transition Academy. So a lot of great opportunities here for conversations, and so we're looking forward to that. But just wanted to put that out there, Dr. Reininger. I know that teacher incentive allotment will always be one of the topics, but I think the other topic needs to be centered around those areas as well.
Thank you very much. Good for us to hear and now plan for. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else to come before this committee, we stand adjourned.
Okay, so let's wait a minute while we get offline.